Hello and welcome to Writing from the Womb podcast. I'm Sama Morningstar and I have Kawana here with me. Kawana is involved with a lovely collaborative book project that I'm super inspired about, and I'm so glad to be able to interview another author from this book. It has quite a beautiful name, but I'm afraid I haven't memorized it yet at this point, so I'll just let you introduce yourself more, Kawana, and the book project that you're involved in. Just to start, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so my name technically on paper is Kawana Williams, MALPC. I am a native of Chicago, Illinois, south side of Chicago. I am also a licensed professional counselor. I am a Reiki master teacher and practitioner, and I am currently a doctoral student at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Please pray for me because my nerves are shattered and my edges are thin because of it.
Mm-hmm.
The project that I am involved with is an all-female anthology called Ancient Future Unity. And from what I understand, the collaboration is based on the lived experiences of women from a more psychosocial, emotional womb space. It's kind of like this is my story, but this is also a how-to for you not to do what I did, kind of, tripping through life, trying to live life. That's the best way that I can describe it.
Well, I imagine that some of the stories are also leading by example in part, right? Like, oh, there's the stuff I did you might not want to emulate. And then there's the stuff I did to get through that maybe you do want to emulate.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone has a different paradigm. So some people choose to focus on, okay, this is where I screwed up and this is what I need you to pay attention to, so you don't do that.
Right.
However, there are lots of women or individuals for that matter who choose to say, okay, this is what I've done. This is what works. Perhaps you can try this. And it'll make your life a lot easier and a lot less stressful. So I didn't necessarily take that route in my writing, but I'm quite sure a lot of women did. And I so admire them for that.
Well, for me, it's been a mixture of both. And actually, I wanted to start us off today with a poem from my book, Goddesses, Lovers, and Dreams. And a lot of the poems in this book talk about my struggles and then the energies and influences and inspirations that helped me to overcome those struggles. So we'll just start out with there, and then I want to hear more about what you've written about, how you've contributed to this beautiful collaborative book. So this poem is called Birth. God, I am so raw with longing. I'm challenged to the blood with this birth. I no longer fit inside my own womb, but fear keeps me grasping. My marrow throbs with enzymes and life. My bones expand with each breath. Infinity infuses my every move. My grip on myself begins to loose. Panic and fear are knots of pain, slowly sliding out from my heart, through my tissues and bones and skin. Each breath pushes them out, unraveling the stories, freeing the heat, the juice tied up within. God, I offer this raw, bloody lump of flesh, this precious, beloved life to you, a gift, a sacrifice, a service, a dance, and a song. For I know your hands will always be waiting to catch me as I emerge, screaming or silent, new and helpless every dawn. So that's just a little bit about feeling like, what the heck am I doing here? What's going on? Something, catch me here. So I'd love to hear how your stories and what you're sharing in this book might relate to that, or anything else that comes up for you.
Well, one, just listening to that poem, the energy of it is really intense, and not in a bad way. It's intense in the sense of, as the comparison made, giving birth. Like, what the hell's going on? What am I doing here? Can somebody help me, please? I am dirty and I'm screaming and all of these new faces are looking at me and I don't know who these people are. I don't even know who I am yet. Can somebody help me figure this out? And I can see coming into yourself as a woman, or relearning yourself as a woman, because life could be that way. You know, from a very allegorical perspective, it could just be you trying to live your life and the universe saying, no, we're going to do this. And it's going to take a process. And that process could, you know, consist of you purging things that either no longer serve you, or don't serve who you're going to be in the future. And that can be very much akin to a birth, which, because I don't have children, I can only tell you from observation, is extremely, I don't know if we can curse, extremely freaking painful. And
cursing is totally allowed on this podcast, so don't hold back.
Okay. As far as my written contribution, I chose to just be a little more honest, upfront, and raw about my experience, or the experience that I focused on, because I feel like a lot of women need to focus on it. And my section basically focused on minding your damn business. And what I mean by minding your business is exactly that. It is a literal phrase. Mind your business. Not your mamas who dealing with some raggedy dude, not your friend who on baby daddy number 3, 4, and 5 and don't know who number 1 is. Not your best friend who seems to kind of always be in some stuff, but whenever you give her suggestions, she kind of want to stay in that stuff. And I get that, because some people get stuck in their trauma. Some people kind of desire it because that's all they know. Some people legitimately just don't know how to get out if you gave them a roadmaps and breadcrumbs with numbers on them in numerical order. Some people are okay being where they are. Does that mean you have to be? And does that mean that you have to always get down there to save them? No. Because you might be up here super clean and, you know, might be medium clean, but, you know, getting there and just trying to figure it out. And then here comes a friend, or here comes a family member, or here comes an associate gleaning at your energy. Now, you've used all of your energy to help them. You've helped them get a job. You've helped them redo your resume. You've helped encourage them. You've helped feed into them. What happens if the inverse happens? This person don't even have the energy to help you, but you done gave all of your stuff to them. Meanwhile, everything and all of your gifts and all of your stuff and all of the universe wants to give you is back here, because that's where you put it. Because you reprioritize this person who on the other end may not ever prioritize you. So guess what you need to do, little mama? Mind your own damn business.
Exactly. It sounds like this is some hard-won wisdom for you. Did you have times perhaps when, or did you have experiences where you didn't mind your own business, or witnessed someone else in your life that was dear to you not minding their own business and coming out at the end short, you know, with the short end of the stick every time?
Miss Sarah, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a Pisces. I'm always in somebody's business because I feel like it is my job to save their life. I'm a water baby. It is my nature to help save people. And I am okay with that. What I am no longer okay with is you knowing and being aware where you are, you knowing and being aware that you're not happy, and you in whatever capacity are not actively trying to change that. And I've ran into a lot of women who have taken on that mentality. I even have had to distance myself from them, not because I don't love them, but if I'm telling you that's probably not a good idea, and you continue to do that, but then circle around and continue to complain to me about it, you draining me. And you're draining yourself, because clearly what you're doing, whether you like it or not, up in the forefront, in the back front of your mind, in that subconscious, in that place, in that shadow that you don't want to dig and clean out, you're attracting that. The problem with that is you're also attracting people like me who don't always know how to mind their business, but you know, if you call one of us, we're going to jump to your defense. But you still going to want to stay down there in that dirt, and that's fine. The problem is everybody don't want to stay down in that dirt with you. And a lot of people who are in that dirt have seeds over in this, but they ain't put no honey, they ain't put no water on it. They ain't seen no sunshine. They ain't put no pesticide. Your whole crop, your whole future, your whole entire life is rotting because all of your business over here gets no attention. But your homie who's still stuck in depression, or your person who's still stuck in that bad relationship, or your best friend who's going through an abusive whatever they got going on, hey, they're there. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, all your stuff is collecting dust in the corner. Mm-hmm. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah. And so I imagine that this perspective, and I know for myself, for my own experience, you know, with family members that have been in that same cycle, especially women in relationship with the men in their lives and their children. Mm-hmm. Mothers, particularly, especially mothers, we're trained to, you know, just give and give and give and take care of everybody else and not take care of ourselves, not take care of our own business. And that's such a deeply ingrained pattern for women that it's really hard to shift that. I'm curious what you have found to help you when you're feeling that pull to go ahead and pour your energy into another person and neglect your own, you know, whatever you're nurturing, your own crops, if you will, from your metaphor. There's, you know, it's like, for me, I've had the experience that it's a constant pull to just pour myself into others and saving others. I have similar patterns, so it's great that we're talking about this, and neglect mm-hmm. my own. And for me, it's often because it's challenging to look at our own stuff and do our own work and overcome our own obstacles. And it's almost easier to look at somebody else's and see clearly what they have to do and focus on all our attention on telling them what they have to do and trying to help them with what they have to do, because, you know, we're a step removed from it and it's not so emotionally charged when we're looking at their problems and we're not so invested in it. So it's a little bit easier to really like face that and hold their hand and be over there with that and not look at our own stuff for the same reasons that they can't overcome their own stuff because they can't look at it because it's too hard to look at it. Then we're over there. So it's the same kind of thing, but we have a different method of avoiding our stuff. I'm curious if this resonates for you at all, and when someone's feeling that way and avoiding their stuff, you know, besides just this adamant mind your own business, can you offer some practical tools that you use for yourself to bring yourself back and to have the courage to face the stuff and to do the work in your field to raise your crops?
Quite simply, my memory is real long. Hello. Okay. And I think you caught that when I said that my memory is longer than the Nile. Do you understand me? Okay. So what I mean by that is this. I go by patterns. I'm not a historian, but I love history, right? Uh-huh. History, much like maladaptive patterns, mm-hmm. repeat themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. By that logic, my memory is long enough to understand what your patterns look like, mama. Mm-hmm. You can stay over. I just had to learn to force myself to distance myself and look at the history and the pattern of the individual whom I'm dealing with now or have had to deal with in the past, whether it's a platonic friend or a romantic relationship. Does not matter at this point in my life, because I know my knee-jerk reaction is, oh, let me go help them. Mm-hmm. I have to sit down and say, I have to do a Michael Jackson. Do you remember the time when they ripped that up? Do you remember? I literally have to say, hey, excuse me. Remember that time you gave her that piece of advice and she came to you crying and, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm done with this and I'm gone and I'm sending him back home and he can go back to wherever he came from. 8 hours later, you in my inbox or you on my phone to myself, well, girl, we worked it out. After I've seen and heard somebody do something like that, whether it be with their relationship, whether it be with their job, whether it be with their life, whether it be with their mama, their daddy, whatever they're in that's causing them this running to me to tell me their business, just to go back to that business they complained to me about, I see you. I don't even give it any energy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I've had to force myself to step back and say, remember that time she told you she was done with him,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 hours later she was right back. Oh, we cool. Remember she done did that to you 4, 5, 6 times this month? Stop answering the phone for her.
So you just stop answering the phone.
Either stop answering the phone and just stop giving my energy, stop extending myself, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only so many times that I, as a friend, can watch you fuck up your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming to save you from fucking up that business, and mine is collecting dust in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example, right? I had a sister friend. When I tell you, we were like succinct in so many ways. We were just very, like, we would be on the phone for hours. If it wasn't the phone, we were in each other's faces. If it wasn't that, we were on social media, just all day communication. I could tell her anything. She could tell me anything. The problem is she had a lot of stuff going on in her life. A lot of her self-saboteur was leading a lot of her behavior. And a lot of her behavior was dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me be clear, let me be fair. As a friend, I'm always going to be there for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life and as a woman, not one person who I will always be there for has ever asked me, demanded me, or commanded that from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of women and a lot of people feel obligated to help their friends when nobody asked you to help them.
Mm-hmm.
They may have just needed a listening ear. They didn't even ask you for that. Did they ask you to pick up the phone? Because I can guarantee you, you were probably in a line of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people they could have called. Long story short, this young lady called me in the midst of an emergency that she had. Now, I don't want to blast her, but this emergency was not an emergency, because when you do stuff, whether intentional or otherwise, there are consequences to certain things that you do in your life. Mm-hmm. And that's period. She needed some help. She also was very aware that I am a doctoral student. I am actively working on my dissertation proposal. So I really don't have a lot of time for anything. Knowing this, she called me anyway, saying, I need, oh my God, can you please? And I'm like, little girl, you're too old for this, but you know what? I'm gonna be your friend and I'm gonna help you. Again, keep in mind, I'm in the midst of typing my dissertation. Mm-hmm. I'm in the midst of minding my business, right? I put my own shit to the side to go help this girl who has been operating in her own dysfunction and self-saboteur, tearing her life all the way up for years at this point. Mm-hmm. Years. Now, mind you, I didn't find this out until later, but in the moment, I didn't know. I just thought I was being her friend. So when I get to her and she tells me what's going on, I call myself being a friend and telling her, like, yo, you need to tighten the fuck up. You got this going on, you got this going on, you got this going on, and you call me out here to help you handle this. Why? What's going on? Within the next 3 days, our conversation started to dwindle, and she started responding to me really just short and snip and, hey, how you doing? Oh, okay. So by day 3, I'm like, hey, good morning, how you feel? I'm checking in on her to make sure her emergency didn't take her out. Day 3, she tells me, you know, you really don't have to check up on me as much anymore. I'm good. You know, I'll figure my stuff out. You got your own stuff to worry about. And, you know, don't worry about me. I'm good. Be blessed. Excuse my French, but bitch, who you talking to? Mm-hmm. Did I not just stop my stuff? Did I not just put my business to the side to come help? Did you not call me like you didn't have somebody else to call? And were you not aware that I got my own stuff to deal with before you called me, ho? Like, for real? Did you really throw it in my face? So I haven't spoken to her since that day, but you know what? Tell me anything she said to me that was wrong. You need to tend to your own stuff. You ain't got to worry about me no more. Mm-hmm. Go worry about your own stuff. Now, again, I don't think that was her throwing shots. I think that was her being salty because I snatched her by her edges and by her collar and told her, you out here fucking up. and you need to tighten up.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, do you know how many times somebody had told her that before me?
Mm-hmm.
And how many times I had told her that, and not necessarily in that tone? Meanwhile, I still had a dissertation assignment that was due, and I wasn't even a page and a half through it. My own business got neglected because I felt obligated to help somebody else who didn't want to help their damn self. And the moment that she told me, you know, in her bitterness, mind your business, I said, this bitch done told. Damn, she right.
Right.
She's right. That's what it was for me. It was just me figuring out certain people have certain patterns. Certain people gonna do what they do. You're the only one that's gonna be up all night worrying about that. They ain't going to sleep. Guess why? Because they have a safety net of people who will help keep developing their self-saboteur. They have a safety net of people who they know they can go to that's going to save them, including your goof ass, including you.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to step back, realize that some people are just going to continue to do what they do, whether it's healthy for them or not. And if I had the power to save them in that way, my name would be Jesus instead of Kawana. Meanwhile, I have a whole degree in music that I have not utilized in 3 or 4 years or more. Meanwhile, I'm in a whole dance company. It ain't been to one rehearsal. Meanwhile, I have a dissertation proposal, and there will be days that I'm on the phone with her talking her off the ledge, and I ain't wrote one damn page. Meanwhile, my cancer memoir was not finished. Incomplete, sitting on my laptop, but I'm worried about this little heifer who's been able to get her life together and just chooses not to. Mind your business, little girl. That's what it was for me. It was just me watching people operate in their dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what I was giving to them, regardless of how I was feeding it to them, no matter what advice, no matter what love I was pouring into them, they were going to be who they were, and they were going to remain where they were. Meanwhile, my shit was remaining in the corner, collecting dust in the spider webs and Charlotte's Web and their whole cousin family, then wrap all of my stuff up.
So it sounds like perhaps this experience, and I'm curious how this experience motivates and informs. You said at the beginning you're studying to get your counseling degree. So, and it sounds like too that in this story that you told about this woman, that at a certain point you told her something she didn't want to hear. You told her, you know, that last time that she reached out to you, what you told her was uncomfortable for her. It was, you know, inviting her, well, telling her to look at her stuff and to pull it together. And that disqualified you from her list of people to go to that would keep supporting her patterns. Or maybe she realized, I would like to hope that maybe that your message to her sunk in a little bit and she realized, and maybe some change would start to happen. And I would think that might be central to your approach with your eventual counseling clients, and in what you're building for your approach to counseling.
What I've learned as a counselor, even before this doctoral program, is this. Again, and I'd like to reiterate: people are going to be who they are. Mm-hmm. This young lady could be sitting in my office. Let me sit. I'll separate my friendship from her. Let's say she were a client. Mm-hmm. Now, as a client, I would absolutely still help her filter through that. But as a counselor, we deal more in brief counseling. Mm-hmm. So there's no way in the world that I would be helping this girl work through her self-saboteur over a year or more. It might take that long for her to break through to me. But if I've given you tools, if I've given you steps, if I've helped you process, if I've helped you filter through and this, and you are still repeating the same pattern, even as a counselor, it is my job to challenge you on that. Mm-hmm. And I had an issue with one of my best friends on that, because as a counselor, yes, there is such thing as a soft hand, and there's such thing as a hard hand. When it comes to certain patterns, as counselors, what people don't want to believe is we will backhand you figuratively. And what I mean by that is, if your mess keeps popping up in these sessions and we've addressed them and we've given you tools on how to handle them, but it keeps popping up, we challenge you, whether harshly or softly. It's like, okay, but you said you want this. We discussed how you're going to get this, and yet you're still doing that. Let's talk about what's going on. Like, what's the disconnect? Because you told me this and you're not doing it, and I just need to know what's going on. As a counselor, that's called challenging incongruent behavior. And no matter, and I think, you know, as a healer, no matter how soft or hard you challenge someone on their shit, they're going to feel away.
Yeah.
That's just how that is.
Well, especially since a lot, and you mentioned it before, a lot of people's recurring patterns comes from old unresolved trauma. So I'm curious what kind of trauma resolution or trauma recovery methods you're learning about and are planning on implementing with your counseling clients. When, you know, because oftentimes it's like, oh, when you question that recurrent, you know, we talked about strategies here and here for you to not be in these, you know, recurring difficult situations and recreating them. Why is it still happening? You know, my sense from a healing perspective is that there's some underlying reason that hasn't fallen away yet. There's some old wound or even ancestral wound that's calling to be looked at and addressed, and that's why that keeps coming back around, so that we would keep looking deeper and deeper and peeling off the layers and bringing healing balm to those wounds and nourishing a different way of going about things. Like, sounds like some of the things that you would share with somebody is, well, this is a different way to do it, right? Okay, great. So they could try that, but that pattern might still keep coming around of feeling certain ways and having habitual behaviors that needs a deeper and deeper and deeper look at it for it to start to change. And so I'm curious what kinds of trauma recovery, trauma resolution practices you're developing and want to explore and share with your clients.
Well, practically developing, I'd rather use strength-based anything, because I honestly feel like if you focus on the things that a person is good at doing, or what they have successfully achieved, or what has worked for them prior to now that they seem to forget actually has worked. If you focus on what a client can do versus what they fucking up on, or what they haven't done, or what they haven't achieved, you'll get more out of them. And what I mean by that is this. So you have a session with a client, right? Or you talking to your sister friend, or you talking to your partner, whatever, and they telling you everything that they can't do, they don't know how to do, and I don't know. Okay, first of all, let's change your language. Let's start there. Because and let's change your paradigm, because one, your focus is on everything that you ain't done, you can't do, somebody told you you can't, somebody fed you can't. What do you like to do? What are you good at? Or give me an example of when this person pissed you off and you were able to stand 10 toes down and I said what I said, and if you don't like it, there's the door. Give me an example of that. I would rather focus, if they tell me their business, or if they reveal and their patterns reveal themselves over time, that's great. Okay, now I see why this has happened. I see why that makes sense. You were inspired by this, and this is what triggered that. Fine. What are some ways that you feel like you can resolve that? And I promise you, you ask clients that, you're only going to get one or two reactions. They're going to be confused because no one's ever presented options to them. Or two, they're going to stop and think like, damn, man, I did do that. And I did, and it did work. And I did, you know, at least for a few days, had some peace and resolution in my life. So what I choose to do is people and say, listen, what has worked for you? What do you think will work? Have you tried? Would you like to? When you do, what's the end result? Because if you give people options where they feel like they've never had any, especially when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to negative self-talk, when it comes to you know, issues in your relationships, platonic or otherwise, it's best to present the client or the person with options. And options that are based in things that they do well. If they don't know that, okay, well, let's talk about what you like to do and what works. That is the easiest way for me to get to a client, to get down to the root of their patterns, because sometimes if they come in with the same thing and you challenge them,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in that challenge, they're going to tell you, well, I do it like this because, you know, when my daddy, boom, okay, there you go. Well, I do it like this because when I was little, my mama, boom, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
It never fails.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask them, or if I challenge them in the midst of, okay, we said we're going to do this. You ain't do this. What's going on? What's the disconnect?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, this is what I'm used to. You know, when I was in the house, my dad, my mom, oh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Right.
I don't have to do much work.
No. Right. And so, you know, as you're sharing all this, you know, all these wonderful tools as healers and counselors, we learn all these wonderful tools from our own experience, and we learn to offer them to others, and we learn best ways, you know, most effective ways of helping others. And something you said earlier really resonates for me, and I'm curious about it for you, is that the caretakers that have this focus in life, Pisces, I have Pisces moon, right? You said you're Pisces. And we tend to gravitate towards being caretakers, you know, taking care of others. And one of my biggest challenges and lessons, which you sort of mentioned earlier, is feeling like there's a reciprocity, that I'm also being cared for by the people I'm in relationship with. Now, as a practitioner, as a professional, right, that's being taken care of in your professional agreement, that they're paying you a fee for services, or you know, some other arrangement that you have, that they're taking care of you. But in our personal relationships, however, that can get a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is there's two kinds of situations. One situation is where the person I'm helping just doesn't have the capacity to have a reciprocal, you know, mutually beneficial and helpful relationship. And those relationships end up not lasting very long, because I got the same thing with memory. I see, you know, I can see what happened, and I see the pattern, and pretty soon I let them go. However, if I did that all the time and just assumed everyone was like that, I would be alone. I wouldn't have any relationships. And I've isolated myself as a coping mechanism, and often find myself very alone. And so what I've started to notice is that there's another aspect to it, is that my constantly giving and taking care of others, again, is a way of avoiding taking care of my own stuff, and being the strong one who's always able to help others is a way of avoiding my own vulnerability, and doing the uncomfortable thing of asking someone to support me, or sharing my vulnerability, sharing my pain, sharing where I need support, asking for what I need. And that's also something that I feel women have been trained never to do, to ask for what we need, ask for help, ask for support, ask for what we want, even any of those things, and to receive, to allow ourselves to receive the kind of support that we need. And if we're receiving a different kind of support than what we need, to ask for a different kind of support. You know, that's another level of it too, because sometimes I've had the experience of starting to receive support from somebody, and it's not the right kind of support for me. That's not really what I was wanting. And then I just tell them, you know, that's okay, I'll handle it myself, instead of saying, actually, the kind of support I would prefer is something like this instead. Can you give that to me instead? And so that whole navigation of receiving can be quite a barrier to actually that kind of reciprocity in our personal relationships. So I'm curious about your experience with that.
I feel like that also goes into minding your business, because the business of self is to be concerned with self. Like, the number one thing about being a human being is self-preservation. Unfortunately, because women are healers, we don't know what the fuck that means. Self-preservation, what? I have 3 kids crying. I have a husband who needs what husbands need. You know, and none of them really give a shit about what I need because they need. The women are so innately built to give and be there and nurture. At no point has anybody sat us the fuck down and said, baby, do you want a hug too? It's okay. Like, come on, let me give you. Like, women are so used to just going out and giving, going out and doing, going out and being, or just being so everybody can come to me and lay in my bosom. But when they need to lay in someone else's bosom, they will find 50 excuses why they can't. Well, the baby hungry, well, my husband horny, my job, my edges. Okay, but all of that stuff will be there after I give you this hug, little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of it will be there. And I feel like a lot of women struggle with the fact that your husband is going to be there horny, but he ain't going nowhere. He's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids, if they brats, baby, no shade, that's your fault. Nothing wrong with spoiling your kids. But listen, them bratty kids going to be there. They got their daddy in real life. Your job, baby, if you had a fit right now, they would fire you and walk out the door with your boxes and you would not be able to say goodbye to your friends or your clients. Mm-hmm. Real jobs care about you. A lot of jobs don't. Mm-hmm. So if you need to take that day off, come get this hug. Mm-hmm. If your husband is dragging your edges back further than they already are, come get this hug. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to say, I don't feel like it today, or I'm having a moment, or that's what it is. A lot of women are scared to have a human moment. What a lot of humans on this earth don't understand is, and this is again tending to your own business, you are not a fucking robot. You are a spirit having a human, a spirit having a human experience. Mm-hmm. So when you have a human experience, just like robots, and you're going to break down if you do too much work, Ma. Mm-hmm. Eventually you're going to run on empty. Eventually you're going to run yourself ragged. And by the time you run yourself ragged, it's not going to be enough energy to pump into you to get you back to where you are. It's okay to be human. And to be human means you might cuss out your husband because he didn't caught you on a bad day. To be human means you might yell at your kids because you just built up with all this anger. You might have to apologize to them later, but they probably kicked you in the knee and they caught whatever your boss was supposed to catch when you were there. That happens. Like, it's okay to say, I'm fucking tired, and lay down, because if you I promise you in 2-3 hours, if you take a nap, the world is not going to end. Them babies is not going to get kidnapped. That husband can wait for that. Okay, if you catch that husband can wait. Your homegirl can wait. Like, you need you right now. Mm-hmm. At best, you need 2-3 of your sister friends over there to go lay in their lap and let them pour into you. Women don't know how to be human, but in our defense, who's advocating for us to be that?
Well, now we got Kawana advocating for us, and that's no small thing.
and that's a wonderful thing, and I'm flattered. But guess what? It's one of me amongst like 3.5 billion women on the planet.
I know. Well, and I feel like so many people, I mean, I talk to people all the time about this dynamic. And more people are waking up to that. And I really want to appreciate the power and the conviction and the strength with which you bring this message to people. I think it's going to be really powerful. And I'm curious about you. Do you have, I mean, we talked a lot about these unreciprocal relationships that you've had to set aside and come back to your business. I'm curious, do you have people that you can lay in their lap now? Have you developed that? And so I'm so glad to hear that. And
yeah,
how, for somebody who doesn't have that, for someone who doesn't have that, how do you find those people? How do you develop those relationships that are reciprocal, that you can go and you first you have to say, you know what, it's okay for me to ask for this, to go do this. And that's the first step. And then the next step, finding somebody who really can sit and hold you in their lap and pour into you.
Well, I've had a set of best friends that have been my best friends since I was 15. Mm-hmm. I am 37, so do the math. It's been a very long time. Uh-huh. And I think what made me really, really realize that if I needed to go cry in their lap, I could, which is not that I didn't know, but I am the strong one in the trifecta of us.
Yeah.
So I will hear all of their business. They don't know shit about mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't really vent to them in that way, but baby, we vent to it. They vent to me, or we vent, but I'm usually in the midst of them venting. I don't tell them shit about me.
Mm-hmm.
So what made me realize that was when one of the best friends was like, BF, that's what we call each other. BF, you good? Like me and the other BF worry about you because we don't ever know your business. Mm. And we know your edges is gone, which means you stress the fuck out. But you're not telling us nothing. Like, you'll say hi, you'll pop in, but we don't know what's going on with you. Are you okay? And I had to sit back and say, like, damn, these bitches been my best friends for 22 years. And not one time did I stop to think if I needed to have a whole fucking breakdown, I could call, I could go by, I could say, can I come? And they would absolutely say, yeah. I don't know how I forgot that.
Selective memory, right?
No, but when they ask me like, yo, what's going on? We don't know. You don't talk to us. What's going on? And they weren't saying it like tighten up. They were saying it at like, we know you the strong friend, but bitch, come on now. Don't do that to us. We know you. Mm-hmm. You know, ain't nothing but for you to pick up the phone and say, oh my God, best friend, I'm coming. At best, coming to get you. They've been that way since I was 15 and I'm 37 now. Mm. So I go to them. Mm. I absolutely go to my father. And I know it might be a little tricky because, men are more masculine in nature and they ain't real good at all. Oh, baby. But my father knows me. Like, my father knows me way better than I know myself. So I could call my father crying, cussing, screaming, and because he's a Leo, he don't do much of this. Mm. He do a whole lot of this. Mm. And when I'm done, he'll either say, you're the fucked up, right? Or he'll say, okay, so what you gonna do about that? Mm-hmm. Like, he'll give me the ear and then he'll ask me and help me filter through my problems. My mom, she'll just say, where you want me to pull up at? Who we got to beat up? But I'll make time. Like, what you want to do? Like, I have people, even down to my partner. My partner is, when I say very caveman, very, very, I love him to death, but he's caveman down to his core, my God. He also knows me well enough to know that if I need a moment, he'll either like, come on, man, like, you be doing too much. Mm-hmm. Like, you ain't slept in 3 days, you ain't ate. What do you, like, I see it in your face. Can you go sit down? Mm-hmm. I have key people that I go to. Oh, and plus I'm in therapy every other week. I'm crazy, for real. Mm-hmm. I'm in therapy every other week. And my therapist even had to point out to me, like, you can't always come to me with your shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you got to have some friends. You got to have some friends that can poke into you, baby. I'm like, but I don't want to. That's their job for me. They supposed to support me. No, ma'am. She had to remind me, like, go to your friends. You don't have to always come to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, damn, she's right. She's right. I just know my core circle of people who I can go to, my core people who know me, who if I call them on the phone crying, which if I call you on the phone crying, it's really, really bad. Mm-hmm. I know who my core people are, and if I call them in tears, I know that they'll either come running or I can come running to them in whatever lap or bosom they have available. It's mine. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that for you, that you have that, and it's inspiring for me, and I'm sure listeners to have a balance like that. In order to be a caretaker, we really need our own team of caretakers that are taking care of us and that remind us and call us in to receive and like that. So I'm so glad that you have that, and I'm so glad that you came on the show today. If folks want to get in touch with you and learn more about your work, learn more about the collaborative book, how can they contact you?
Well, if on Facebook, I am Abena Kawana. That's ABENA KAWANA. I'm on Instagram. On Instagram, I Stay Woke 22. That's I Stay Woke, like the song by Erykah Badu, and the number 22. I also have a website for my Reiki business and some other spiritual tools that I sell, like Palo Santo and Sage combinations, healing crystal bracelets, and yoni eggs. That is www.myhealingcenter.net. So feel free to make an appointment. I do distance Reiki. I do yoni egg consultations for $25 an hour. My crystal bracelets are pretty much made of all the crystals you see here around my neck. But yeah, just reach out to me at www.myhealingcenter.net. I stay woke 22 on IG. Ivana Kawana on Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And listeners know that if you want to learn more about the Womb-Centered Healing Temple, which is the host of this podcast, you can go to wombcenteredhealing.com. And thank you so much for joining us. That's all for now. Until next time.